welcome to News 6, which is brought to you this week by the 6th grade at Longfellow Elementary in Fostoria. Jim Wilson brings us the In Our Community segment with our first story about a very unusual bank.
To find out what goes on at a bank, News 6 visited Fostoria's Tri-County Bank. It used to be called the First National Bank and has existed since 1882. The two major functions of a bank are taking in money and loaning out money. The money comes in through checking and savings accounts. The bank uses these individual deposits to give other people loans. Loans are given out for many reasons, including buying houses, cars, home improvements, education, and vacations. The main things that customers do at banks are taking in money or getting money out, usually by making deposits in their accounts or cashing checks. Tri-County Bank is not an ordinary bank, though, because it has an unusual history. It was robbed in 1934 by a very famous bank robber named John Dillinger. 9 people were shot in the robbery, including the police chief. Dillinger took 45 minutes to rob the bank of over $17,000. Eyewitness Ernie Duffield told News 6 what it was like during the robbery.
The place was completely surrounded, and they're still scooping money up and bagging it. No one's excited at all. But when they did shoot the chief of police, we decided that it wasn't too safe in front of the opening because the bullets went through the car we were sitting in. So we got out of there as quick as we could. People were coming downtown from all over town to watch the excitement. They were peeking around the corner into the bank as if it was a bank night at the movies or something of that kind. No one was afraid of being shot. They didn't think about being dangerous at all. But everybody was looking around, watching in the front of the bank.
Mr. Duffield was shot during the robbery in the arm, but he told us that because of the excitement, he never knew it until a half hour later. The proof of the robbery is still in the walls of the Tri-County Bank. You can still find a bullet next to the elevator where the police chief was shot, and more bullet holes can be found above the bank's door. John Dillinger was never caught for this robbery. Another place in Fostoria that was once very dangerous is now the basement of a doctor's office. Once, however, it was a cave that sheltered runaway slaves from the South before the Civil War. It was part of a secret network of hiding places known as the Underground Railroad. The cave was a refuge for many types of people who were hiding from the law: Indians, horse thieves, and blacks. The cave might have held as many as 25 escaping slaves. Today there is little evidence of how it used to be, for the entrance is now stone steps and the interior of the cave has been furnished. But it is still a small piece of history that Fostorians are proud of. Our city may eventually have a different kind of government than the one it is presently using. A group of local citizens has proposed that the city switch from the present mayor and council form of government to a charter government. A charter is a written document that provides its people with certain rights. Fostoria's citizens will have the right to compose their own charter, thus making their own laws. A commission of representative citizens will have 1 year to write the proposed charter before a final vote is taken on the adoption of the charter. However, the charter has already been rejected once by Mayor George Peeler because he feels that charter form of government gives the people in the town less voice in government. Mayor Peeler talked with News 6 reporter Don Hampton.
The donor told us that if this government was passed, that we would still have a mayor and still have a city council, and they would have more power. Is this true?
It's very possible that is true under the federal plan. But if they're talking about the city manager form of government, or they're talking about the commission plan, that is not true. Because the commission has all the power. There is no mayor elected under a commission plan, and there's no mayor elected under a weak city manager form of government or a weak mayor plan.
Right now, the issue of whether to have a charter government or not is in Fostoria. We at Longfellow think that everyone's opinion about it should be heard in decision left up to the people of Fostoria. For our in-school segment, we now turn to Teresa, who has some stories about the high school.
Our class took an unusual field trip this year. We didn't have to travel far, but we studied the wonders of outer space. We went to the planetarium at Fostoria High School. A planetarium is a special room in which people can study the sky. A large machine in the center of the room uses many small flashlights to project different stars and planets on the dome ceiling. Students sit in chairs and watch the patterns on the ceiling. Mr. Maisel, the director of the planetarium, moves the machine to give a model of the formations of the stars, patterns, and how they move during a year. Mr. Maisel explains about the wonders of the sky to the many groups of students that make a field trip there. About 3,500 people visit it a year. The video room at the Fostoria High School is not as popular as the planetarium, but it is an interesting place. There are only a few high schools that have such a place because it is a fairly new field in study. High school students learn how to make television programs in their video room. It is called the video room because television programs are recorded on videotape. The high school class uses the room and equipment to make their own programs or record other stations' programs for later use in the classrooms. There are many types of equipment in the room, including cameras, recorders, and microphones. Mr. Kramer, the teacher, shows his class how to use the equipment. One of the students has directed 10 programs. The class has taped concerts, sport events, and graduations. Mr. Kramer told us that the class is really thrilled because they are doing it themselves without help of others. And now, with the people segment, here's Donnie.
Many people are afraid of creepy, crawly things like spiders, worms, and insects. One of the most feared is the bee. But one Fostoria man is not afraid of them, at least not anymore. Mr. Ralph Boroff now owns 2 million Italian honeybees, but he used to be frightened of them. He decided to get over his fear of bees by raising them, and now makes that fairly dangerous pastime his hobby. He keeps the bees in a bee yard that has about 20 hives. Mr. Boroff builds the hives, which are made in several layers. The bees live in the bottom layer, which have slats in them. The bees form combs on these slats and make honey to put in the combs. Mr. Boroff sells the honey. He lost about 35% of his bees this winter because of harsh weather, but he still has quite a few. When he wants to inspect the hive, he must put on a protective suit and smoke the hives first, because smoke calms the bees. One can never be too careful, for as we all know, a bee sting can be pretty painful.
Thank you for joining us on New 6 this week, which was produced by the 6th grade class of Mrs. D. Jo Zimmerman at Longfellow Elementary in Fostoria. Next week, New 6 will be presented by the 6th grade at Ada Elementary. Have a great week.